Welcome back to the Successful Seniors Podcast. I'm Don Cody, your host. Today, my special guest is a dear friend of mine I've known for a very long time, Holly Porter. Holly is a successful entrepreneur with 11 startups under her belt. She tries to blend purpose and profit with heart and strategy. Currently, she's the CEO of a company called Retreat R&R, and she's the founder of a nonprofit called Adventure Bucket List. Holly tries to empower women to lead with passion and presence and resilience. She's a 15-time best-selling author. She's a very successful speaker, and she's a business consultant. But recently, a near-death experience reshaped everything for her. And I can't wait for you to hear from my friend, Holly Porter. Hey, everybody, it's Don Cody. Welcome back. So listen, I am with a very dear friend of mine. So Holly Porter and I have been friends for many, many years. I know a lot about her background, but you don't. So what I'm going to have her do is tell you a little bit about her background relative to what she's doing today, which you're going to find extremely exciting. So without further ado, welcome, Holly.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me, Don. Good to see you.
Yep. And we're not too far away from each other. I'm in Las Vegas, as everybody probably knows, and you're up. It's Utah, though, right?
Yeah, Southern Utah.
Southern Utah, right? So I can throw a stone to it if I really try hard.
Yeah.
Well, you're down here in Vegas quite a bit, right?
Off and on. I grew up in Las Vegas, actually, and then came up here kicking and screaming at 14 years old.
But it's been good for you because you've had tremendous success up there. So as I had alluded to, what I'd love for you to do is tell us a little bit about your background, but there's so much success and so many great stories that we'd be here forever to be able to get it all in. But if you could kind of share with us relative to what you're doing today, tell us how you got here.
Sure, I'd love to. Well, I grew up with parents that were two entrepreneurs. My mom was really passive. She was homemaker more. I had 8 siblings, so there are 9 kids. So when we moved at 14 to Utah, we moved to a little tiny town called New Harmony, Utah. The population was 198. And so 11 of us was 5% of the population. It was nuts, but they loved having us because my dad's a big kid and we did lots of fun things. So he was Mason. He was the number 3 largest company in Las Vegas at one time. And so he was busy, but he was I'll bring home the bacon you fried up in a pan type era. And so my mom just learned to adapt and raise kids. And she was later an interior designer, but she catered. We did events, weddings, all kinds of things. So early on, my dad expected us to earn our school clothes money from 12 on up. And so he would give me a job in his office and I'd go do all the dirty jobs, washing walls and toilets and filing, whatever they needed. But I made $2.50 an hour. And I remember,
right?
What's that?
It builds character.
It does. I remember looking at the wall and they had the poster that said minimum wage was $3.33 and I was making $2.50. So we had a little conversation about that. No, I didn't get a raise, but he bought my tennis shoes for school that year, whatever. So, child labor. Anyway, it was fine. It taught us how to earn what we have and work hard. And so going in, I graduated from high school a year early, not because I was super smart. I just always hung out with kids older than me. I was an old soul and school wasn't really my thing. I mean, I could have a doctorate degree for all the classes I've taken, but I didn't take what they told me to because I didn't need the certificate on the wall. For me, I wanted to learn what I wanted to learn. And that was okay. That's just how I did it. I just figured I'd go and have a family and have 3 jobs. And I don't think anything has ever stopped since. I've usually had at least 3 companies going at a time. While even with kids, we raised 8 children of our own. Scott and I combined a bunch of 6.5 to 19-year-old in one house years ago. We've been married almost 24 years. He had his own company. He does construction. So I've had 11 startups of my own, and some have been great. Some have been okay, but to me, if I'm not happy, I'm not doing it. So that was a little bit of my history. And
Here's
then,
something somebody told me just recently. They said, forget about business. If you've raised a child, you're successful, right? If they made it to 18 years old, you're successful. So 8 times that for you, plus all those startups. Oh my gosh. So lots and lots of success. And I know a couple of challenges along the way too, right?
yeah, nothing's perfect. And I mean, looking back, it's like, what would I change? Probably a lot knowing what I know now. But when you're in it and you're
Right.
raising, we were in survival mode all the time. We were running, 3 or 4 companies, plus we had a bunch of teenagers in the house. And we now have, my baby's almost 31. So we have 18 grandkids. I think that'll be it. And that's fun. I wish we'd have started there.
Whatever your whatever your facial regiment is, it's working for you.
Oh, well, thank you. My
Keep
new
using
again. Oh, I don't know about that. So
myself.
I've aged in the last few years. I've aged at least 10, and what happened was this is what led me up to my story now. So during COVID, we all suffered. The whole world suffered.
Yeah.
I can't think of one thing in that has happened in the history of the world that so quickly affected the whole world as COVID. So we
Right.
all dealt with it. So one way or another. I never thought I would get sick with it. I didn't think I was above it. I just was really healthy. And I went
Mhm.
to a conference in the fall of 21 and came back with the Delta version. I always worry about how many people I infected on that plane. And,
Yeah.
I was so sick. So I stayed home fighting it for a week before I woke up intuitively and knew I was in trouble. Got my husband, he had it from me. So he was sick, but he didn't have to be hospitalized. He dropped me off at the ER and went and parked. And by the time he walked back into the ER, they already had me on my way to the ICU. It was that
Wow.
serious. They said I probably have another hour to live. Got some oxygen on me. Well, that started the first day of 70 that I stayed in the hospital and was on a
70 days in the
ventilator.
hospital.
What that?
70 days in the hospital.
70,
That's
seven
like
zero,
4 months. No, that's like 3 months.
2.5.
Holy, three
Yeah.
months. Wow.
I literally, I was in a coma off and on for about 30. I was on a ventilator twice
Mm.
and a trach. So 52 days on a ventilator. And it was not fun. I mean, when you lay there in a bed, first of all, you can't breathe. So it brings on PTSD from there, brings on
My God.
anxiety, the depression and other things come later, when you get out. But while you're in there, you have a lot of time to review your life choices and your future
Mm.
that you may not have. And I remember laying there thinking, am I good enough? Did I do enough? Did I serve enough? What kind of a legacy am I leaving? Um, the blessing I had though is there's 3 different kinds of experiences that I'm aware of. Maybe there's more, but I had out of body experiences. I had a spiritual transformation experience, and
Mm.
then I had a near death experience, and that was pretty special. I mean, that's been really to be told that you're going to live. Number one, to be told, hey, this is here's your handbook. Here's what I want you to go create. Not a lot of instruction, though, I will add. I had to figure out and still am figuring out a lot of things, but it was a renewal of life, like really to face death every day for many of those days. I end up getting sepsis. A couple other life threatening infections. I can't even say, I don't know what they are called, but they said those were probably worse than COVID, what I had.
Mm.
Um, but you face those kinds of things and then you have the struggle after because I was on oxygen for months after and the long COVID set in. So then there was all the diagnoses that started coming in, which I don't want to be attached to, but I want to be aware and smart enough. And for me, when people would say, what did you do to get better? I mean, for a long time, I was only 70% better. And then I got to about maybe 90, 95. And then I had a 10-week setback. I was like, oh, just kidding. And
Wow.
people say, what do you do to get better? And it's like, what are you willing to do? Because I have a long list and my breath matters. And I'm not going to waste it telling someone who just wants to hear about it and not take action and actually get better. Better is better, is my motto.
Right. Better's better. Wow. How simple, but profound.
Yeah,
So,
every day is better is
so
better.
it's been my experience, and unlike yourself, I'm really healthy. I don't take any medications, no pain or anything like that. We got COVID. Gabriella, my wife and I got COVID before COVID was announced. So we got it in December of 2019. And
Yeah.
then we had an international conference that we were hosting in Las Vegas. People came from 12 countries, and we didn't know about COVID yet. But she and I had, this was in January. So we had
Uh,
been sick in December, really sick in December, and just thought it was the flu. And obviously, no other information was available. And then we got better, and then everybody came. And while we were here, while everybody was here from all over the world, there was like, okay, you gotta all go, y'all got to go home now, right? And so it was scary. Like we didn't think people were going to get flights or anything because they started shutting everything down.
right.
And so, but I was fine. And my point is, you have experiences now that so few people ever have. Weird to say it this way, the privilege of having. And I
Yeah.
noticed you kind of said it that way too. The blessing of these experiences, of a near-death experience and a conversation with God that says, "Hey, Holly, got a plan for you. You can't come here yet." Right? Tell us about that, please.
Yeah. Well, my mom was the one that told me. My mom had passed away about a year and a half before. That was part of my spiritual experience, which I
Oh,
thought was another near-death experience until I learned about spiritual transformation experiences. So when I was in my bed, most of my out-of-body experiences, I remember seeing my body. That's how come I knew I was out of my body.
interesting.
And I would take my body with me and the whole bed, because subconsciously I knew that I was not okay. And I think I had the fear that if I don't take my body with me, wherever my journey is going to take me today, then I might not get it back. And
Wow.
so I have a chapter in my book coming up called Me in My Bed, because we went everywhere. In fact, I would have in my mind, I was in like a storage connex. That was my room. And an ambulance would pick me up sometimes, and it would hook up to my room, and it would take me on my out of body experience for the day. And it would bring me back at the end of the day and unhook and leave me
Amazing.
waiting at the hospital, just crazy things like that. But I had some great experiences. I had, yeah, I went back in time
It
most
all
of
seemed it all seemed like real at the time or
Oh,
surreal?
no, it was real. I mean, I've had it verified. I went to a house that's about 15 minutes away from where I live now. I knew I had been there before because we had done a cousins camp there. It's a Jesse M. Smith house in Perwin, Utah. It's my great 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 grandfather, but I wasn't sure of that until later. And it was built about 165 years ago, so I went back that far. And a lot of times I was there, and there was a staircase that had a spiral staircase in the house. Really creepy. Like there was some weird family stuff going on. Those weren't all happy moments. And I toured it about a year and a half after I got out of the hospital. And that same staircase, they've remodeled the
Wow.
house a couple times, and the city owns it as a museum. And that creepy staircase is still there with the dirt floor on the bottom. And it was just like when you start seeing things that you're not
Wow.
got verified, you weren't just dreaming that.
So
There's no way.
wait, you've never been to that house before, but you saw it when you were sick, and then you went and visited physically after?
So I had been okay, so years before they remodeled it the second time, I had been there with my kids
Wow.
when they were little. We did a cousins camp there. So I
Oh,
knew I knew where I was, and I knew it was a relative, but I didn't get it verified of a great 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 grandfather's house. I don't think he lived there that much because back then they were pioneers, and he did missions and stuff. And so I think his
mhm.
family was there, and some creepy people were there. I mean, we all have dirt, right? They were families. So yeah, it was interesting. Anyway, it's a huge posterity, and I was there, yeah, a lot. But sorry, back to my mom for a second. So in my spiritual experience, my mom came to my right side, which was verified by a lot of healer friends of mine. I thought that was interesting that they would say, your mom was on your right side. Like I didn't know, and like I hadn't known that all along, right? But it was nice to have other people say that, because I said, yeah, she was with me a lot. And she came this particular time, and that's when she said, I was actually pouting. I was really mad at the time because my cousin had a spiritual experience, and asked, can I know who's with me, with all these people that have
Mhm.
passed on, and praying for me and my husband to get better and our well-being. And I wasn't doing well at the time. And she asked my sisters to read the text. I wouldn't put this in a text normally, but I know she's not doing very well, and I need you to read it to her. So I remember they must have put me back in a coma. And I remember being really mad. I thought, why did she get that experience? I'm the one suffering. I was mad
Mm.
that I didn't get that spiritual experience that she did. Well, be careful what you wish for, because that was when my mom came. When did your mom
Wow.
come, right, to scold Jeff? No, she didn't come to scold me. She just said,
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the show. I wanted to take a moment for a public service announcement. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Successful Seniors newsletter. Comes out every Wednesday morning, takes about 5 to 7 minutes to read. It'll be in your inbox for you to read with your first cup of coffee. It'll be the highlight of your week, and I know you're going to love it so much you're going to want to share it with all your friends. So go to successfulseniorsmedia.com to subscribe. There'll be a link in the show notes, successfulseniorsmedia.com to subscribe. And now back to the show.
all appeared above my bed. So I didn't leave anywhere. I was in my room. They were above my bed, and they all started chanting the word fight, fight, fight. And every time fight would get brought up, which I don't love that word, like then my husband and my kids and my siblings and my friends all start appearing every time they're saying it, until thousands of people are there. And it was that defining moment when I knew I'd live. It was like, I pray, look, if you're not going to get me better, then get me out of here. That was my prayer. I was mad. I was just like, I'm done suffering. So let's figure this out. And, I say it jokingly, but that's kind of my attitude. I am a natural redhead. And I just was like, let's figure this out. Let's get on. And so they were there. And later I realized all those people I didn't know, because there were thousands, I really believe that they were all the prayer lists I was on, because I had friends all over the world, and they would put me on their church, and every prayer list there was, I had people, messaging my sisters, and I read them later, that, we prayed for you and my whole congregation, and I put you on this, and I put you in every, temple and wherever. And I think I saw all those people. I know I felt all those people in support, but to see that many thousands of people that have your back, it was like, got it. All right, let's go then, get better.
I have a feeling that there are a small percentage of the people in the world that that are fortunate enough to have an experience like that,
Yeah.
because it gives you a depth that, as a human, it gives you a depth that you couldn't get any other way, right? But I
Yeah.
feel like very few people actually use that to propel them into doing greatness with it. And
I agree.
you're doing that though. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How
Well,
is this do?
it's been okay. So it's been like going on 4 years, get 3.5 years easily
Mhm.
since this. And I can't say I did that in the beginning. For me, so COVID fog is real. Like your brain's it's a brain disease. And
Mhm.
there was a lot of things. I had a lot of gaps. I knew the out of body stories. I knew the spiritual story, but the near death story. And if people want to go and search my name, I'm on lots of podcasts that tell that whole story, because it's long.
Mhm.
It's like 45 minutes just to tell the story of that. But I just felt like I had gaps. And so 2 years, I will say the 2 years after I got out of the hospital were the worst 2 years of my whole life, times 100. Take every
Wow.
bad day you ever had, times it by 100. And that was my 2 years after. So I come back, I,
Wait, physically or mentally or emotionally or all of the above?
all of it together.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, my physical body was a mess. I was trying to put together a nonprofit I was told to do, my software company I was told to do. I did. I incorporated those about 3 months after I got out of the hospital. Don't ask me how, because divine intervention. I'm telling you, there were so many miracles to my story that I will talk about it in the book too, because they're just, you have to have miracles to go through and have good things happen
Yeah.
out of bad things. And I had a hypnosis session. I had a trainer that had trained me a few years before, and I just said, look, there's gaps in my near death. When I came out of the hospital, or out of my near death, I spelled out, because I was ventilated. I had to spell out on the alphabet to my sister. I spelled out kidnapped. She had left and ran an errand, and she said, I wanted to throw up when I realized that's what you were saying. She thought what happened while I was gone. And I always wonder, why would I feel kidnapped when I just left heaven? I mean, and I didn't find out for 2 years. In that hypnosis session, I just said, there's gaps out of integrity for my book. I want it to be right,
Right.
told me in there a lot of things. And I saw a lot of symbols, a lot of things in there that were almost as good as the near death. And so it closed a lot of gaps for me. But he said, more will be revealed to you when the time is right. And I normally would be losing it over that because I want to know what's going on. I need to know everything, not for the control, but I just don't like surprises. If I know a surprise is coming, I want to know what it is. But if you just surprise me, it's fine. Well, I was just at peace with that. Like I remember going through those 2 years, and I remember my sister saying to me, I just wish you would feel some peace. I don't know if I ever in my whole life really knew what peace felt like. And right now, I can tell you in my life, I have so much chaos going on. I am at more peace. It's like everything's fine. I know that I'm
Wow.
afraid of death. And just to have that knowing, I had the gift of knowing before, but to have that intensified where it's like, oh, thanks for letting me know that. I'm excited to see what's next. I'm excited to see what more is going to be revealed. And like I just learned something a few months ago. And, sometimes by being on a podcast or talking it out, I'm able to reveal and think of things that I didn't remember before. And I love that.
Mm,
Not that the stories being made up as I go. I've been accused of that. People get on those YouTube comments,
yeah.
all kinds of things. And I just have to say words in, words out, because it doesn't matter. It's my experience. It's not
Right.
theirs. And I just thought, there's no way I need to make it up. I have no reason to make it up. But if I can have one listener listen to something I say and have a better day or change something in their life, I'll tell you one message I got that I didn't have the full message or I never would have had those 2 years. Those 2 years were my learning test to do my philanthropy piece of my life that's coming because
Mm,
I get to understand the system I was going through, the brokenness and things I was going through. And it didn't end well for us. And not to get into it, but there were a couple grandsons involved. I lost one of them um,
mm,
to a family member in adoption that should have never happened. Broke my heart. So it didn't end well. But how many grandsons and sons of others am I going to be able to save because I had that experience? And now I
right.
know I want to be a check writer. I don't need to be in that experience. I need to just get these companies so they're doing well enough that I can say, what do you need to beat this? What do you need to make this better? How can we help these underprivileged children? And I just have so much stuff that I want to do. But like I said, it takes money. And I never been money motivated. And now it's more, there's a purpose for it. I never had a purpose. I really never had a purpose in my life until I almost died. It changed everything for me because my family, sure, I love them and they're a purpose to live, of course, but to really know this is your legacy, this is what you really can do for a bigger picture. It just feels so right.
I don't talk about it much. I'm so glad that you do, but I had a spiritual experience, wasn't near death. I had, in the 80s, I had been really successful in real estate, made millions of dollars, lost it all in the 90s. I call it the debt spiral. I lost all my real estate, filed bankruptcy, went through a painful divorce and ended up homeless, right? Pretty ugly for most people. But during that lowest point, my dad, who had died, came to me and gave me a poem. And I wrote it down in my journal through tears. Couldn't even see it actually when I was writing. And it fit on exactly right to the end of the page. And it's called Have Faith. And it's 13 places in the poem it says have faith. And
Wow.
so I have had a spiritual experience and it changed my life and it drove me to the purpose that I've been fulfilling for 30 years, which we are doing here today with you, which is really helping people to live the life of their dreams by
Yeah.
giving them experiences that they haven't and information that they haven't had access to before so they can take the next step on that staircase to
Yeah.
wherever it is they're supposed to be going, right? You don't have to see the whole staircase, just the next step. And you've been able to kind of share with us today from your perspective what some people have had those experiences, don't know what to do with that information.
Yeah.
And we're not done, because what I want you to do now is I want you to tell us in a little bit more detail, um, first of all, what it is that you're doing, how you're manifesting your destiny, and then how people can find out about it and how people can get involved in it possibly.
Right.
because honestly, I don't know those details. So if you could kind of share with us how it's manifesting and how people can help and support your cause, this would be awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. And of course, any kind of things we have a passion for, we want to talk about.
Sure.
So I was told two things while I was in my coma. God's my higher power, whatever that is for anyone else. But I was told specifically in the near death experience, I had just pitched the day I found out I had COVID, sicker than a dog. I pitched 9 people on a Zoom that had a billionaire backer for a company that was just an idea. It wasn't incorporated yet. It's called Retreat R&R. And it's part of it's a booking and hosting site like Airbnb, but for retreats.
Wow.
Later, there's like 26 income streams to the whole company, but there's a real estate division and, we have a podcast and all that. But at the time, it was just a concept and it was mostly just for the booking site. And they, of course, wanted it, but I was told not to partner with them, that wasn't the highest and best thing to do. It
Yeah.
would be longer than it has, but that wasn't. So I listened. And I went on my own and I raised some money, and we still have lots of money to raise to finish development for that piece of it because it's huge what we're building. And I was also told to start a nonprofit called Adventure Bucket Wish, not List, Wish. So Venture Bucket Wish, and not really any more details than that. And so when I got out of the hospital, I went right to work, kind of in between being really, really sick still. And I decided to put the mission for long COVID. And so I started there, and about a year and a half in, I had a podcast. I I just felt, actually it was going into our third year, and I felt something was off. So I took all the fundraisers off the table and I just sat with it. And I thought, just keep doing the podcast until I knew.
Mhm.
It was like, usually I know stuff really fast, and
Mhm.
it wasn't coming. I just knew something was off. It was a fight. There's your word. You to get guests. I mean, there's over 100 million people suffering from long COVID. It was needed. It was underserved. No one knew anything about it. But I'll tell you what, nobody gave a crap. People didn't want to hear the word. They didn't want to talk about it. YouTube, which I did put it on YouTube as well, video, it's censored. So I was getting terrible traction. And honestly, I was just like, what is happening? And I was in the middle of recording a podcast. And all of a sudden, she's telling her story. She had long COVID, and I started reliving mine. I was struggling breathing, and I'm like, what is happening? As a video, I think, what is happening? And I got a huge download that said, this is your last podcast. This is not your mission anymore. And that was like, hallelujah. I wanted to like say, oh, I just kidding. We're not like finish this show because I'm leaving. See ya. I'm relieved, not because I don't want to help those people, but I think what was happening, I realized I was getting better and I wanted to be in wellness space, and it drugged me back into sick space because people like being victims. They might not like what's happening to them, but they're getting attention for it. I didn't want
Right.
attention for it. I wanted to be known as I conquered this and I did this, and there's been setbacks. And so I was just in a different space and it wasn't helping me. And if you can't be happy with something you're doing, it's really hard to keep doing it, especially when
Right.
it's a nonprofit, because I wasn't making a salary. I was giving, I wasn't taking. So then I was depressed because it was like, why would God tell me to do this very clearly and then take it away? Well, one of my board members said, she said, yeah, but if I remember right, you didn't get the mission. You just got the name. And I said, you're right. And she said, well,
Wait,
then
you didn't get admission, you just got the
so I got told to do a venture bucket wish, but I didn't get told go do it for long COVID. I came
um,
to that myself because I needed a
got
minute.
it.
And I was like, what could I get behind? Well, I was living that and it was so needed. And I'm an early adopter. So I'm like, no one knows nothing about this, right? This will be great.
Mhm.
Everyone's going to want to donate to this cause. No. So I took her advice. She was like, let's just change the mission. But you're in your third year. That's kind of a big deal for a 501c3 nonprofit.
Yeah.
So let's just change what would light you up is what she said. And I thought,
Mhm.
you're right. What would make me so excited to do this still? And so we switched it to women leading with purpose. I have a soft heart for single moms. I've been a single mom. and vets, women vets. I mean, women struggle anyway with the salary, compensation,
Mhm.
lots of things. And I thought, wow, how could we, minorities, I mean, how could we like kind of give them a little extra leg up? It's not just for them, it's for all women, but it's helping them find their purpose because with my experience, that's what I found. That's what I came out of my experience was a purpose. And I would love to help other women. And how many other women with money can get behind a mission like that? And so
Mhm.
that's where we are now with it. And it also aligns with the retreat software stuff because the majority of them are women. There are a lot of men involved with retreats as well, but that's our mission. So that's our philanthropy piece to the other company. They're hand in hand as far as I see it. And yeah, here we are going. So I feel like we haven't made it yet. But we're well on our way.
Hopefully you never make it. You just stay on the journey, right?
That's okay.
Because
That's
when you
okay.
make it, you're done. Think about it,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
You just stay
well,
on the journey.
that's right. I mean,
Keep
like I
going.
said, I hope it goes on long after I'm
Mhm.
gone. But I hope it creates enough that I can be that check writer that I really want to be. Not for the name, not for the clout, for the cause that I really want to help and serve. Or causes. I shouldn't say cause. I have lots of them, but yeah.
I have just a flood of names that have just come into my mind of women that know their purpose. And most of the stories that I've heard, right, they didn't know their purpose, didn't know. Boom, now they know, and they're making things happen. They're shaking it up in the world, right? Not the least of which is my wife, who I know you know very well, right?
Works.
She struggled with finding her purpose for so long, and she's now founded. She's a vet as well, so she'd make a great guest for you if you have openings. I know you got your book is all full, but I'll keep feeding you names if you need them because
I love that.
I'm
Yeah.
blessed and privileged to know a lot of really amazing women.
Yeah. And the podcast is more for that. There'll be a podcast for the nonprofit later. You can only handle so much at a time.
Yeah, of course.
Right. We did start one this year for All Things Retreat, it's called. And so, yeah, that's who, but still, anyone in a lot of areas we can interview because retreats really are so broad. You can do retreats at anything. I really like to support people that want to add it as an income stream, not to start another company, but add it to what you're doing because you already know what you're doing. So why not be able to offer and spread it out a little more and spread the love to people to come into your fold and spend a little more time with you. And a retreat's a great way to do that.
Well, a successful seniors club, which we're just getting off the ground now, will have retreats as a part
Good.
of the mix. And so I know you and I will be doing a lot of work together doing that for sure. But I want people to be able to stay in touch with you. I want people to be able to get in touch with you, stay in touch with you. And what's the best way they can kind of monitor your growth and your success? How do people get in touch with you? Do you have some place where they can subscribe to a newsletter or at least get on your list of something? Can you share that with us?
Absolutely. So the nonprofit is adventurebucketwish.org. And
Okay.
there you can subscribe on there. And then I'm on all social media platforms, some more than others, but retreat R and then the letter N and then the letter R. That's how you can find that on social as follow
No,
along.
I'll get all that in the show notes so people will be able to you'll give me the links and I'll just put them in there. People just click
Yeah.
on them, get to you.
And my email is just my name. So we'll add that on there too. You can always email me, ping me on social. You bet. I love that. And if as long as your stuff doesn't go to my spam, because I don't always check that, I'll get an email from you.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, social, there's no spam in social, right? So if they find you, they can get in touch with you that way. So we'll put all that contact information in the show notes for Holly so you can stay in touch with her. But there's so much that you haven't had a chance to share with us today that I know would be incredibly valuable for our listeners. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Please make time in the future. Come back. Okay.
For you always.
Love you. All right. So listen, everybody, thanks for coming and sharing some time with Holly and I today. And I'll have all that information in the show notes. Thank you for giving us some of your love today. We appreciate it.